hadn't seen the new Wall Street film yet. It's been out, I don't know, a year or two. And I watched a big part of it yesterday and then the rest of it today while I was on the treadmill jogging. And excellent film produced by Oliver Stone. And I did notice a little cameo in there with the one, the only Sean Stone. But I do want to bring up that film a little bit. You know, I've had him on the show before and never raised stuff about his dad, but I just wanted to get his take on that film and ask what his favorite film of all time is. But he's here to talk about very, very serious issues. He's Sean Stone, and he is a documentary filmmaker, TV producer, TV host of, well, prolific work. And he is one of the big reporters on the third season of Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura and Tyrell Ventura coming out very, very soon. I talked to Tyrell last week, and they're not quite sure on the date yet, but we should have that for you soon. But I wanted to get him on. You know, for whatever reason, I didn't get him on when he first made his big announcement a few weeks ago, and he's been on O'Reilly, CNN, basically everything. But now in the aftermath, we'll get him on. He went and converted to, I guess, Shiite Islam in Iran. And when I was out in Las Vegas, we were looking at some rocket bases and other things out there for an investigation we were doing. He showed me his sword of, you know, Ali around his neck, and he said, you know, I'm thinking about converting. And we really didn't talk much about it, but he said, no, I'm serious. But the way he's described it is, and that's what the Bible says, it all comes out of Abraham, Judaism, and then, of course, Christianity, and then Islam, and most major sects of Islam understand that and know that. So I think for his statement, maybe I'm putting words in his mouth, but what I've gotten from what he said is that he's basically just pointing out that it's, at least in its roots, all goes back to the same God, and let's stop killing each other. Like Rodney King, can't we all just get along? Maybe I'm wrong. Am I putting words in Sean Stone's mouth? We can find out right now because he joins us. Sean, great to have you on.
Hey, Alex, thank you. Good to be back and to talk to you again.
Well, I just, you know, said a whole bunch of stuff. What's your take on what I said, and why did you go to Iran and convert to Shia Islam?
Well, I didn't go to Iran just to convert, and nor have I would never say that I converted. I've always said that I accepted Islam, and as you said, I believe. Oh,
accepted it, sure, sure.
Exactly, Islam, because all that it means to accept Islam is to accept that Muhammad is a prophet of God, the same lineage going back to Abraham, Moses, and Christ. So, you know, the Islam itself is, you know, very similar to Judaism. The Sharia law is based on Mosaic law. Their respect for Christ is tremendous. They believe that there will be a last judgment and Christ will return to earth as part of the second coming. And they believe, you know, that they are part of this process. So it's not that I don't, you know, in truth, the spirit of Islam is not contradictory at all. And they are very respectful of the people of the book. I think that ultimately in spirit, all of us, you know, all the people of the book are opposed to paganism, to the idea of God creation or cults, atheism and Satanism. I think those are actually the real enemies of the religions. And anyone who says otherwise, for example, within the religions there are Satanists. You know, within the Catholic Church there are Satanists. Within Islam there are Satanists who worship the ego, who incite people to violence against other worshippers of God, who don't understand the ultimate message, which is that we need to devote ourselves to one God as opposed to these cults that are created largely by the financial sector. If you think about it, going back to Babylon, when the priestcraft would basically deploy god cults around the empire. So you get, like, you know, Apollo, the cult of Apollo, the cult of Mithras, the cult of Isis, right? And as you saw with the Bohemian Grove, that's what they do. They deploy these different cults, and you do blood sacrifice or money sacrifice, debt sacrifice, ultimately, to that god. So the Federal Reserve, for example, is a temple. That's why the Federal Reserve... No, they admit that they build these government buildings as temples. I want to get into this with you because I know that we were in Las Vegas and you know, walked around and investigated that. But you're absolutely right. The occult means hidden, and it's the science of manipulating people and hidden knowledge, whereas, you know, the great three big faiths are all about everything being in the open. And so it's all about being hidden or being out in the open. And you're right, the Satanists and the Luciferians, they're all deceivers. They're all about operating in secret and using deception. Very well said. In fact, please elaborate. Let's get into your research on the Illuminati that you were trying to get into. Well, just simply to put that this is old. This goes back to ancient Babylon, when you're basically you know, the whole concept of the pound of flesh that's owed in debt, right? In the Merchant of Venice, Shakespeare points this out, that you either owe me the money, or if you don't pay the money, you owe me a pound of flesh. And that's essentially what these temples that are designed to do. That's why the temples would always put the image of God on the coin, the currency. So the idea is that you're basically creating a fake God. You can't, and that's why Islam talks about the fact that you can't, the reason you can't put Muhammad's face or God's face on coin is because they don't want you to worship an image of God. There should, it goes back to Moses,
idols.
right? Smashing the idols. So what we've created, though, in the West is a very satanic culture of idol worship, because it's about your energy and your money going to these people. You create, an idol out of Madonna and Britney Spears and Michael Jackson, whoever it may be, these cults of worship. And that's the old Dionysian cult, right, where you go and you basically have orgies around these rock concerts or in these clubs, guided by the music of the cult master. And as I've studied and there's a lot of Illuminati influence involved in actually the creation of this music. Magical words, for example, witchcraft words of witchcraft. You can glimpse it in, for example, Led Zeppelin's work, where Page and those guys were, basically devotees of Aleister Crowley, and Aleister Crowley is the premier black magician of the 20th century, and the Illuminati still actually, I hear, actually conjure Crowley because he's a demon apparently on some other dimension. So they try to invoke him in their rituals. But the point is that it's about energy. Where does your energy go? And so for the pure spirit of Islam, just like the pure spirit of Christianity, the pure spirit of Judaism, the idea is your energy is supposed to go to the one God, the Creator, and you are made in His likeness, and we are all made in the likeness of God. So we should respect each other as being made in the image of God, thus representatives of God. But if we then ultimately, if we then go towards worshiping people, idols, and serving them through our monetary system, paying homage through our money, our energy is going to that. We become materialistic, hedonistic, and ego worshipers.
And they are truly false gods.
That's why we're not. Where's the resistance? Where's the resistance against?
Okay, his Skype just cut out. Let's reconnect with him right now. Thank you. Skype is an incredible thing, better audio, video for another dimension of information here, but it still is not perfect. That's why we couldn't use it 3 or 4 years ago. It was way too sketchy then. Now it's getting really, really good. But I was going to get into false gods with him. And see, people think false gods, that's the stuff in the Bible. It's mind control. They learned how to manipulate people through images, and then people can attach a message to their false god, Madonna, Angelina Jolie, Arnold Schwarzenegger, whatever it is, and then people will basically go along with that because of the image of the idol. But really it's just a narcissistic star who is just reading off a script or a teleprompter. That's why I point out my radio show, my TV show, teleprompter free. Teleprompter free. I mean, sometimes I have a TV screen where I can see the video of who I'm interviewing, or when they bring up a new article, I can know that, okay, we're covering that article. But you know what my words are versus when I say, let's read from this article. Because what you're hearing is what I've researched, what I stand for, what I believe in. You're absolutely right. And Sean, people say, well, this is old mumbo jumbo. We're the 21st century. Atheists say, I don't want to hear about God. I don't believe in it. The point is the elites do. And they're using it as a science of control. Maybe it is just an archetypal, you could say to the atheist, I don't agree with this, system of primitive programming of the brain. The point is, it works. It works. It's real. It's 1,000 heroes, 1,000 devils, 1,000 good guys, 1,000 bad guys. It's the hero of 1,000 faces. It is Jungian psychology, whatever you want to call it. The elites are obsessed with it. More of the elite than I do. They're really into the occult. I mean, I know you can't get all the way into it, but have you ever run into the Illuminati, Sean?
I'm very close to some people who have and who are involved in some level. And this is a long exploration. Frankly, it's going to take some time to elaborate. But there are, basically the eyes wide shut sex parties are real. These things take place. They do have these crystal skull type of things that they, like in the Indiana Jones film, they had the crystal skull. They have these type of skulls they set up at the parties, and they feed the energy into those skulls. There's a tremendous amount of stuff I'm actually working on in Iran, studying what's called the jinn, because that's in Islam they call them the jinn, and in the West we call them genies, right? The point is that in Quran they say the jinn were created by God in the beginning when He created angels, humans, and jinn. And in the old days, they say the jinn and the humans and angels were more interactive before the last fall, before the last flood, from Noah's flood. And after that, the jinn apparently entered a different dimension. And from here, there are positive jinn, negative jinn. There are positive jinn who actually worship God, and there are negative jinn who worship
Well, that's
Satan.
like the Nephilim in the Old Testament in Genesis and Ezekiel.
Similar, exactly, the fallen angels concept. The point is, the jinn are very interesting for Freemasons because the jinn were involved in constructing Solomon's temple. King Solomon was able to command them. He had a ring of power, which is a 5-sided pentagram, which is why the pentagram symbol is key for most satanic or black magic ceremonies. You can then conjure jinn, but Solomon used them for wisdom and to command them and basically use them to build the temple and to honor God, as opposed to what many of the Illuminati
And now you're giving out the big Mason secrets that higher level Masons are taught. Whether it's real or not, this is what 33rd degree Masons, 32 degree Masons are taught.
Yeah, and it's known outside of Masonic circles, but the point is that the idea of the Illuminati, and this is known in the East as well, in Iran, in China, people I've talked to from the mystical sects, from the Sufis and other mystical sects, know about these things, that you can make, that first of all, there's 6 dimensions of perception, which is why the Star of David, which is actually not David's star, it precedes it, it goes back to Babylon. It's very important because it shows 6 sides.
Yeah, it's the key seal. In fact, it's the seal on the ring and to command the creatures. Whether it's real or not, well, stay there. We're going to come back and talk with you on the other side. It was Solomon's key, right? And we're going to come back and discuss all this and your recognition of Islam. All right, Sean Stone, director, TV host, been over 100 films, is our guest. And in the next few months, they should be launching, they don't have the air dates yet, the new show Conspiracy Theory, the 3rd season with Jesse Ventura. Now, this is a short segment, long segment coming up. You were getting into Solomon's Temple when the break interrupted you. Please continue.
Yeah, so what I meant to say was that with the Star of David, the 6-sided as opposed to Solomon's, which is 5. Well, they're different. This 5-sided star is used for commanding jinn. And so when you go to the East, in Iran, for example, I've been talking to jinn masters, and they describe how what happens is you basically conjure a jinn, and you make deals with them. And that's the essence of the black magic Illuminati rituals that we've uncovered or that we're aware of. And so they basically make these deals with these, what you call demon, fallen angel types, and they have to make sacrifice. So the point is that in order to, let's say, have the power that they enjoy to, let's say, have control over music industry, finance, if they want to control the Middle East, they have to then make a deal and some kind of sacrifice in exchange, a blood sacrifice. That's where the sacrifice of children comes in, the sacrifice of soldiers in war. And what's interesting about the jinn is that they always respond to symbols, signs and symbols. So that, for example, the pyramid, the triangle shape of the pyramid is 1, the 5-sided star, the 6-sided star. Each one has different meaning for them, but they then congregate around those signs, which is why you find that most of the major corporate symbols have some so-called Illuminati symbol incorporated into it, right? And that then gives an energy by which the jinn, whenever you wear that symbol, let's say on your clothes, you're giving energy to that power over you.
And again, if you're a new listener and you're like, this sounds crazy, whether it's real or not, the elite really do believe in this. I mean, that's come out so many times. When I was in Bohemian Grove, they were taking it all deadly serious. Why do you think most of the globalists are so obsessed with the pyramid? Because, they use lots of other symbols, but they love that pyramid.
They do. They love the pyramid. In fact, you've seen this Coney 2012 campaign that's being run?
It's an upside-down pyramid,
It's an upside-down pyramid. And it's like the inversion of the Obama campaign. We are hope, we are change. And they put the same, they put Coney as his picture just like they put Obama's picture 4 years ago.
I noticed that they even used that same Soviet-style colors, but then put him by Hitler. Exactly. It's like Obama and the UN are good, and Coney is bad. And what's your view on that and Angelina Jolie? Because I found she's at the heart of all these wars.
Well, I mean, I won't comment on her specifically. What I'll say is the United Nations is a giant occult location and base. I've heard from multiple people about rituals taking place underground, including a guy in Iran who just went to school at Columbia, and he saw a spiritist seance taking place in one of the rooms he was invited to 30 years ago in like 79.
No, they admittedly have weird religious rooms that they keep locked up that dignitaries go into.
Yeah, in fact, isn't there the black Kaaba, the Kaaba stone? See, in Islam, the Kaaba stone is very sacred in Mecca, and they because the black stone of the Kaaba, they say, fell to earth from heaven.